In the summer of 2012, I was 14 years old, and I was on vacation in Michigan with my family and some family friends. We were up at the lake just having a great time, and all of a sudden I started throwing up. And we didn't think much of it. We thought maybe it was just a stomach bug. So we went to the doctor when we got back to Kentucky, and they told me that it wasn't a stomach bug, but that they didn't know what it was. I kept getting sick for a few months, and I actually started my freshman year of high school just feeling awful. I would have to excuse myself from class to go throw up and then go back to class. It was really hard living in the unknown because doctors just didn't know what was wrong with me.
Yeah, it really took about 4 months before we came up with a diagnosis. We were seeing a specialist at Cincinnati Children's Hospital, and while they couldn't tell us what triggered the illness, they really diagnosed Emily with gastroparesis, which is basically a paralysis of the stomach. So what was happening is food was going into her stomach, and her body just wasn't processing it, and her stomach wasn't sending it through the rest of her digestive system. So how her body treated that was it just threw it back up. So after the diagnosis, they came up with a treatment option, and so we did that medical procedure, and it only provided temporary relief. And it was at that point that we decided to get a second opinion. So we started going to another specialist up at Riley Children's Hospital in Indianapolis. We were really just seeking answers and really just seeking a treatment option.
Yeah, so that was going on for about a year, and it was really hard to trust Jesus because while I was trusting him, there were also parts of it that just really sucked. I missed a lot of my freshman and sophomore year of high school. I didn't get to see my friends a lot because I just wasn't feeling up to it. I spent a lot of time in hospital beds getting tests done or getting fluids. I lost about 20 pounds, and I spent most of the time feeling weak, dehydrated, tired, nauseous, hungry. I really just wanted to eat food that I wanted to eat, and I couldn't. It was really hard for me to feel like a normal 14, 15-year-old girl. I spent most of my days it was just revolved around this stomach condition.
I was in college at the time, so I would get phone calls from mom and dad saying, hey, we're going to the ER again so that Emily can get fluids. So just in and out of hospital visits and stuff like that, and I was so confused. I didn't know what was going on and why she wasn't getting better. So, I'd go home to visit, and visiting looked a lot different. One of my favorite pastimes is going out to eat, and that really wasn't an option anymore. So we'd do other things like shopping. I remember this one time we were in this dressing room, and she tried on this dress that she really liked, and it was the first time I had seen the physical toll it took on her. Her arms were stick thin, and her collarbones were sticking out, and it was the first time I had seen the gravity of this illness on her. So fast forward 2013, Thanksgiving. Emily wasn't getting the nutrients she needs because she couldn't hold down food, so they had implanted a feeding tube in her. And Thanksgiving, we were all sitting down to eat Thanksgiving dinner and looking over at the table and seeing her having to get liquid nutrients pumped into her stomach, her not being able to eat food, just the little things that she couldn't do was really hard to watch. As a sister, it was really hard to watch her physically waste away and not being able to do anything about it.
Well, any of you who are parents can imagine this was excruciating to watch. As her mama, I really just wanted to take it away. I wanted to make it better. I wanted to take the pain away, the sadness away, the doubt away, all of it. And there just wasn't anything that I could do. We prayed and asked Jesus to heal her. We did everything medically that they were telling us to do. We did nutrition stuff. We did medicine stuff. We did whatever we could to help her, and she just kept getting sick. At this point, as all this is going on, there would be times when we'd get discouraged. I'd get discouraged or, whatever. And Emily would be the first one there to say, Mom, it's not if he's going to heal me, but it's when he heals me. Yeah, she knew. Well, in December of 2013, we heard from the specialist that they wanted to try a new procedure on her. They wanted to implant a gastric pacemaker in her stomach, which works kind of like a heart pacemaker. The wires go to her stomach and they make it contract like it's supposed to and move the food through. So we prayed and talked a lot and decided that this was the next right step. So on Christmas Day that year, we packed up our family and headed up to Indianapolis, and she was scheduled for surgery the next day.
So after I got the pacemaker, I was feeling great. I wasn't throwing up anymore, and I could eat, and that lasted for about a month. And that was probably the hardest time for me personally, just because we had thought we had the answer, and it didn't work. We had other healing prayers throughout the 22 months, and Jesus had just always told me that it wasn't time yet. And on March 12th, 2014, I was here in a service, and I had to leave because I just was feeling awful. Something that my mom always did was ask me on a scale of 1 to 10 how nauseous I was, 10 being the worst. And I had never been a 10 the whole time I was sick, and that night I was a 10. It was the worst I had ever felt. So I went up to an old prayer room, and I was just laying down. My parents had made plans to take me up to Indiana that night to get me admitted to the hospital. But before we did that, we really heard Jesus telling us that we need to have another healing prayer. So we invited a few elders up, and we invited Pastor Zach up, and I just got to ask Jesus really humbly for complete healing over my stomach, and Jesus answered my prayer. Like, in that moment, over 20 minutes, I went from a 10 to being the worst that I was to a 1 being the best that I've ever felt. And I was running around church telling everybody that I was healed, that it was over, and I was doing cartwheels because I was feeling so good. It was just incredible what Jesus had done. It's been about 1.5 years since then, and I haven't been sick since. I've been completely fine. They turned my pacemaker off last month, and it's been working great. It's just been incredible, the miracle that Jesus did in me in a matter of 20 minutes.
Yeah, the reality is we're really just an ordinary family, but we place our hope and our trust in a God that's extraordinary. We really got to the point in our journey where we really just had to rely on God. As much as the medical providers, they did a great job of treating her and sustaining her life through this journey. As much as they wanted to, they couldn't heal her. As much as her family and friends and pastors and elders, as much as they did to try to help her out, the reality is they couldn't heal her. And as much as her mom and I really fought hard to fix this problem for Emily, we cannot heal her. It really took our God to step in and perform a miracle. And praise be to God that he actually did.
As crazy as this might sound, I'm actually really thankful that I had to go through this, because I have a story of hope and of healing that I get to share with people like you all. And my hope is that my story, our story, just gives you all courage to put your faith in Jesus. Because whatever you're going through, he promises healing, and he's in it with you. A verse that Jesus has given me throughout this is Matthew 19:26. Humanly speaking, it is impossible, but with God, all things are possible.